This is the Millennials in Multifamily podcast, brought to you by Kronos Investment Partners. We interview industry experts to unlock key information that will help young professionals break into the multifamily world in order to create long-term and short-term wealth. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to iTunes and leave a rating and written review so we can reach more listeners.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Millennials and Multifamily podcast. I'm your host, John Stober, with my co-host, Fritz Ritter. Today, our guest is Chad Wittfeldt of Blue Spruce Holdings. Chad has a special skill set that is essential for any company in any industry: online marketing and branding. He's a social media wizard who uses his skills to legally raise massive amounts of capital online. His story shows that you don't need to have a real estate background to become a syndicator. And today he shares some amazing tips that we can all start implementing immediately to leverage social media in our business. Chad Wittfeldt, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Millennials and Multifamily podcast. So you have a very unique background in the real estate investing space. I mean, you're an absolute marketing wizard, social media guru. I think what all of our listeners want to know is, how does this relate to multifamily real estate syndication? How did you use that skill set to get into this line of business?
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate the introduction and having me on, guys. Really with syndication of any asset class, there's really two main parts of the equation. And I guess it really depends on where you're at in that journey. Some people, they're doing commercial deals in-house, JVing them with one or two big investors, right? People who are syndicating larger deals, bringing on 20, 30 equity partners. There's two sides: the money and the deal. And if you're not bringing deals in and you're not bringing money in, you can't meet that equilibrium of a syndication. It's just that simple, right? Mm-hmm. And so the marketing and the branding and the systems and all these things help you accomplish just that. They help you get ahead of that competition by having these things in place, so that you have somewhere for these people to go and for them to ascend through your funnel, so that a like or a comment on your Facebook post can turn into an investor, or an email in your CRM becomes a qualified investor, so on and so forth. And so I started pretty young on this stuff. And I just realized I had a knack for it. I realized I was good at it. And I had always wanted to get into real estate. I just never really knew how. I knew I didn't want to be an agent. And I was I just had moved to Denver, been here for a couple days, and I met one of my business partners at a bike park. I was like, what's up, man? What do you do? Right? And he's like, oh, I'm buying apartments with these guys. We've been doing it for a little while now. We just closed our first deal. I'm like, no way, man. Like, I've been wanting to get in real estate. And it really came to the place where I met the rest of the partners, and I started to understand the business of multifamily syndication, and really just laid out exactly where I could add value to the team, and showed them, hey, this is exactly what I can do. This is what it will look like. Here's how it's worked in this industry, et cetera. And that's how I wound up teaming up with Blue Spruce Holdings and buying apartments.
So you mentioned a term, a funnel. Could you explain to our listeners what exactly is a funnel? Yeah,
for sure. I'll go big picture funnel, and then I'll go the digital asset of a funnel. Big picture funnel is really your entire client acquisition process. Okay, whether it's an investor or just a broker sending you deals, whatever it looks like in your business, right? So at the top of your funnel, you have what we call traffic. This is where people start to see your offer. They start to see what it is you have to offer them, what kind of value you can provide them. And now we have to put the pieces in place to ascend them from a random person who's just coming across you to a fan, to an investor, or somebody who's bringing you deals, right? So that's the big picture of a funnel, right? And obviously you can procure traffic through things like this podcast, YouTube, Facebook ads, social media. There's all kinds of places you can procure traffic from, right? But the key here is being specific along each step of the way, so that person ascends down into a profitable ROI in your business, right? Likes and comments on your Facebook posts are great, but if it's not pushing your business forward, they're not really serving their purpose, okay? And then the actual digital asset of a funnel. It's a super, super simple landing page, squeeze page, funnel page, opt-in page, etc. The main thing here that people often get confused about, and the number one question I get asked is, Chad, you talk a lot about funnels, but what about my website, right? What's the difference between the two, right? A funnel is really just a website that you can only do one thing at a time, right? They can only opt in. They can only find one piece at a time. Right. And so that's the funnel. Okay. Where websites kind of have lost their lust is the fact that they can choose, view my portfolio, contact us, about the team, podcast, blog. They have too many options. And so that's why bounce rates on websites are so high. And that's why a lot of syndicators don't find conversions on their websites. Not a lot of people are actually ascending through a website like that. So having a funnel with qualified steps to take somebody from a cold piece of traffic all the way from, learning more information about you, opting into your drip campaign, filling out your investor questionnaire, scheduling a call, building the substantive relationship for those SEC lovers out there, right? All these good things. Building that is really what allows us to onboard and bring new people into our business while we sleep, right?
So have you completely done away with the traditional website? And do you just use funnels for everybody, like investors, brokers, like you said, and just anybody else? Is it all funnels?
No, we do still have a website, and I recommend most people do. A website really serves as a great authority piece, a great credibility piece, because what the funnel does is it guides people from, like I said, a cold piece of traffic, a cold audience, all the way to becoming a qualified investor. Now, when they're at that place of desire, of action, where they want to physically wire over that money to you, now that's really where your website serves its purpose. You already warmed them up with your funnels and your drip campaign, but now they're like, all right, well, I want to give Chad $100,000 to put into his next deal. I need to find out a little bit more. And so a lot of times when somebody's trying to make that decision, they're going to want to go look at your website. So I recommend still having one. I recommend having both, honestly. So.
Okay. Well, one thing interesting that you said was you use funnels with brokers to find deals. How does that work?
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit different of a process. It's a lot more personal. Primarily because, and this is just my bias, but if you're syndicating real estate and you're speaking to a broker and you're telling them that you're looking in 20 different markets, they're probably not going to take you super serious, right? I mean, it's just that simple. They're probably not going to take you super serious. So for brokers, I don't typically put up an actual funnel squeeze page, right? I funnel them through LinkedIn, right? I use an automation process that allows me to reach out to different brokers in a very specific market, in a very specific asset class and at scale, right? Whether they're commercial or residential. I personally don't do anything residential, but the strategy does work for people who are. And then from there, following up, personalized conversation, getting them on the phone, getting them into a substantive drip campaign so you stay top of mind. One thing I always recommend doing with your brokers for deals, let's say they send you a deal and it doesn't work out, right? It doesn't meet your underwriting criteria. And tell them why. So, right? Start to think about training your brokers. Tell them why it didn't work and thank them to the heavens for sending it to you, right? And if they've sent you 2 or 3 deals and none of them are working, send them a gift card to Starbucks. Send them a gift card to your favorite restaurant. Show them that you actually care, because a lot of people are calling brokers. They'll send them a deal, it won't work, and they'll fall off the face of the earth. So with brokers, it's far, far more quality oriented over quantity oriented, right? So it's a very different type of funnel. It's not like a squeeze page, landing page funnel that I'm using to attract them. It's a step based, personalized funnel that way.
So with the broker funnel, are you not really sending them through the funnel or up what's called the value ladder? Are you just using them to get them into the funnel and then you personalize the communication?
Yeah. So like I said, I use the medians of LinkedIn first. I mean, it's easy to find them there. And then, personalized follow-up getting them on the phone, getting them to, warm up to you, and then continuing that effort after you start getting deals sent. So to answer your question, I'm not sending them through a web page based funnel.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So then I know at Blue Spruce, you guys are experts at attracting investors. Did we just lose him?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I thought he was really paying attention to your question.
He's not blinking.
That's a good call. We'll just keep recording because he'll come back on. Okay.
I'm going to start the question over and we'll edit it out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, don't stop the recording.
No.
I mean, I guess they could still mash it. It's just wind, man. It's crazy. You be careful of that face too, man.
Dude, this freeze frame right now, like he's like so focused and in it. It's crazy.
Dude, that was interesting about the brokers.
Yeah.
Should start doing stuff like that.
Dude, we got to start using more funnels.
Well, he said it's not really a web-based funnel. It's more like he says a funnel, but it kind of strikes me more like a marketing campaign. You know?
Chad, you there?
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what keeps going on.
Oh, it's fine.
It's windy out, man.
Dude.
Is it windy where you're at?
Watching Netflix. Yeah, it's been storming here.
Yeah, same here.
There's just like tornado warnings here, but
all right. Can we just pick up where we left off? We're still recording.
Yep.
Okay. So you guys at Blue Spruce, I mean, you are really experts at using funnels to attract investors. And you mentioned something earlier where it all starts with traffic, getting a like on a Facebook page and then funneling them through that funnel and getting them to do what you want, which is what I'm assuming is the profitable ROI. Mm-hmm. So how does someone go from getting that like to having them go all the way through the funnel to potentially investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in your deals?
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. A lot of times it really just comes down to procuring good content with intent, right? A lot of people will go and try to start creating content, but they don't really take the time to reverse engineer their goal with that piece of content, right? You're just going to throw up a Facebook Live, hey, I'm doing this thing at this property and blah, 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 blah. It's being very intentful and really thinking about what your ideal investor avatar, your ideal client avatar cares about. What types of things are they going to relate to? What types of trigger words do they have? What kind of pain are they having right now? What kind of pleasure are they having right now? What are their goals, et cetera, et cetera. So it really comes down to creating your content with very extreme intent and speaking directly to the person that you want to attract, warming them up, building rapport, talking about yourself, telling stories so that somebody can have that personalized human interaction very, very quickly in an online-based medium. And then making the offers. Like, that's what most people just don't do. A lot of people are scared to make the offer, right? And now I'm not saying don't go on Facebook Live and start generally soliciting your 506B deal. That's not what I'm saying, right? but doing things and creating those call to actions where you can move that conversation offline and start to build a substantive relationship. A lot of people just don't do it, right? So like, for example, like what you guys are doing with your ebook, right? People will opt in, be able to get their emails, be able to get more information about them. Now it's up to you to ascend those relationships further to the next level, being very, very intentful with how you do it and how you have those conversations. That's just what's worked really, really well for us, honestly. And when things don't, right? If we have an offer that didn't really get great results or engagement or whatever, we take the time to study it and figure out why. And I think far too many people don't understand the value of data and drive it into the results with their marketing. They have an offer or a marketing piece or a campaign that fails. They say, oh, it failed. We won't do that again. Let's figure something else out. But they don't dive deep into the data, into the details, and figure out why. And so for us, pretty much everything that we've done, customer research has always led the forefront of it.
So you mentioned a term, call to action. Could you just quickly explain what that means?
Yeah, for sure. A call to action can be pretty broad. Let's say I'm doing a piece of content on Facebook Live, trying to position myself as a credible general partner, as an operator, right? And I'm talking about, let's say I'm talking about asset management and how to vet your property manager, okay? And I'm shooting my little video, and one of your call to actions could be, guys, if you got value from this content, drop a comment down below, let me know. Mm-hmm. And then you can go into your DMs and follow up with those people, or have your VA do it, right? Or let's say you have an ebook you're coming out. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this content, go grab my ebook. It'll change your freaking life, right? Having a call to action where you're asking them to do something further other than just sitting there, right? And a lot of people don't do this. And number two, when they do it, they don't care, right? They don't care. They don't get excited about their call to action. And if you don't care about it, the audience isn't going to care about it either, mm-hmm. right? So you have to care, because people will feel that.
So Chad, one thing you said a little bit ago was the ideal investor avatar. How important is it to be as detailed as possible with that?
It depends on who you're asking. For me, it's very, very important, right? But I mean, on the contrary, I've come across other people who are like, no, it doesn't matter. If you have money, you can invest in my deal. We don't build our business that way for a couple different reasons. Number one, we only want to work with people who are excited to work with us. We don't want to be getting phone calls from Sally asking about her 50 grand in property B and wondering if Sue's renewing her lease in unit 103. Right? We want to be working with high level people that understand the business, that are excited to work with us, right? So we're very, very specific on not only who we let into our deals, but how we go about finding those people as well. So for us, it's always really been about making sure that we're serving the right people, you know? And to further that, like before I got into real estate, I was in Forex currency trading. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but that is a really ugly industry. There's a lot of MLMs and a lot of sketchy stuff going on in that industry. And a lot of people will come to it to get the whole get rich quick scheme, right? They want to try and make $1 million over the next month, right? Crazy stuff like that. You don't want to work with those people, okay? I promise you, you don't want to work with them, right? So not only that, obviously, that's important, right? You want to enjoy the people you work with, just hands down. But number two, if you're trying to speak to everybody, you're trying to attract everybody, you're going to end up speaking to nobody, right? People want to feel like they're part of something very specific, and they're going to be working with people who have their best interest in mind, who have similar personality traits and characteristics and so on and so forth as them. And by doing so, that's how you start to create that tribe, right? Not just a brand. I mean, it's something I talk about quite a bit. How big the difference between a tribe and a brand really is. And when you do it successfully, your leads, your investors, your clients, et cetera, they start to find you, right? That's how you kind of create that machine.
So you had mentioned earlier, when you have this avatar, you want to know what their fears, their goals, likes, and dislikes are. If you're not that avatar yourself, how do you gather that information?
Yeah, for sure. I ask around, man. Right. So like, for example, I've been working with a client recently. He's an engineer. He's been an engineer his whole life. His family's an engineer. And his ideal investor avatar is engineers. Right. And so obviously he has his biases, but what we did is we asked 20 of his previous coworkers, friends, et cetera, got the data from the source. Right. Now, if you don't have anybody in your ideal investor avatar, you don't have anybody you've previously worked with, I would raise to the question, are you sure that's your avatar, right? You should be able to at least have a handful of those people in your sphere that you can go pull the data from the source. We can speculate, we can guess, we can think we know as much as possible, but I always recommend going to the source, pulling the data from the people who you actually want to serve just by asking. I have my own, buyer trigger forms, customer research forms that I use. I personally like to use this program called JotForm. I don't know, it's like $100 a year or something. You can use Google Forms for free, totally fine. But getting some data, pulling it from the source.
Jotform, Jotform.
Yeah. I like Jotform because it allows you to have one question at a time, and it embeds really nice into my funnel pages. So that's why I use that one. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's a great example. So you have an engineering friend, slash client. Could you give an example of like what type of content did you create that was specific to an engineer?
Yeah, for sure. If you if you happen to know some or not really, typically engineers are very, very analytical, very, very data driven. They don't get super emotional about things. They're very to the T and logistical oriented. And they're also typically risk averse, right? While returns are very important to them, they're also very concerned about capital preservation. Most engineers that we're trying to attract are going to be making $150,000 to $250,000 a year. And they're also interested in tax incentives and depreciation. So we're talking about how to vet your market to calculate for risk, right? How to put different risk parameters in place for capital preservation, talking about depreciation and how it works, right? Tax incentives, talking about the things that they care about, so that we can get their gears turning and get them starting to envision themselves in those types of deals, and get them to envision themselves on the finish line with you, collecting mailbox money, saving money on taxes, doing the things that they care about.
So you get them into your funnel, and then you also mentioned that from that funnel, you take them offline. So I'm assuming you're having like a phone call with them or a Zoom conversation, or maybe even meeting up in person. How important is it to take them from online to that offline conversation?
I think it depends on where you're at in your brand and your journey, how well you're known. For example, Cardone Capital, a lot of controversy going on with him right now, but I can guarantee you over the last, however many years with his Reg A Plus fund, he's not getting on the phone with people trying to invest 50 grand. I can guarantee it, right? But he's got a huge name. Okay. So, I mean, it depends, but for the most of us, it's super important for a handful of different reasons. If you're doing a 506B deal, you're not really allowed to just jump right into the deal. You're required to build a substantive relationship so that you can educate, you can understand and make a rational decision on whether or not this person is financially sound to be in your deal in the first place. Right. So for that reason, to me, it's really important. We have done 506C deals. However, most of ours have been 506B. And one thing to know, a little off topic on that topic, we do this with what we call a drip campaign. It's a series of emails very, very specifically engineered to warm someone up to who you are and what it is you offer. Now, the cool thing is with this, we can track everything. We can track what emails you've opened, how long you've stayed on those emails, if you clicked through, right? And so what I do is I build it so that when a contact come through that drip campaign, I start to score the actions they're taking. And let's say Sally opened up my first 3 emails. She clicked on every link, and the amount of time she spent on the emails also tells me she actually read them. Well, she's going to get an email very, very quickly to get on the phone with me because she's warm, she's hot, she's interested in my stuff. Versus Joe, who opened the first email and bounced. He never clicked anything. He never did anything. I have to talk to Joe a lot differently than I talk to Sally, right? So having clean data on your audience, clean data on your CRM and on your contacts so that you can sufficiently market to them at the right time is a powerful thing to have.
So with Sally and Joe, are you able to put them on different marketing lists depending on like how much engagement they gave those emails?
Exactly. 100%. Yep.
So what tools are you using to create these lists and these marketing campaigns?
ActiveCampaign.
ActiveCampaign.
I don't get paid for saying this, but there's a lot of options out there. MailChimp, Infusionsoft, this and that. ActiveCampaign is bae. I love ActiveCampaign. Seriously. I will never use anything else. One time I used Infusionsoft for a client. I'll never use it again. ActiveCampaign is everything for sure.
What about it makes it so much better than the rest?
User friendly, super user friendly interface. That's just first and foremost, number one. Number two, I genuinely feel from what I've seen across all the platforms that ActiveCampaign puts the most amount of money into R&D to further their platform with automation features by far and large. Number three, they have a bunch of free education. So it can allow a dummy like me to spend some time in ActiveCampaign and become an expert very quickly. They have a lot of free education. And one of my buddies, he builds this stuff too, and he asked me a question. He says, do you find yourself using a lot of Zaps? If you guys don't know what Zaps are, it's a Zapier, right? It allows you to integrate two pieces of software that don't have a native integration. And one thing I said to him that has stuck with me since that conversation, I had said, no, I really don't ever have to use Zaps. And if you find yourself having to use a lot of Zaps, you're using crappy software, right? I want my monthly subscriptions on these softwares to be going back into the platform to make it easier for me, right? If you're having to use a bunch of Zaps, that tells you that they're not doing a great job developing their software to natively integrate with other pieces, right? ActiveCampaign, I mean, it integrates with everything natively because they've done such a good job.
So I think you've done an awesome job explaining what a funnel is and how listeners can use that to get investors, develop relationships with different people. You mentioned traffic at the beginning. So what are some of the best forms of or most successful forms of free traffic that you guys have used? Because I know Facebook ads, like you have to pay for those, and that's a source of traffic, but you guys are all into the free traffic too.
Definitely. Yeah, great question. And just to add to that, I really recommend everybody listening to focus on your free organic traffic and proving your message, proving your audience, proving your offers before you start to think about scaling into paid traffic, right? It's free, right? It allows you to mess up. It allows you to go through the growing pains of your brand, your message, your voice, right? So figure out what that looks like for you on your organic base, right? Because if you can't build some successful organic free traffic, you're going to spend a lot of money trying to learn how to do it with paid traffic, okay? So the best sources of free traffic, going on podcasts like this, right? Going on or having your own podcast. My partner, Adam Adams, has had a podcast for a very, very long time. We've gotten a lot of investors from there. We've had a lot of meetup groups, in-person meetup groups, in-person events, things of that nature has allowed us to procure traffic. Right now I have a Facebook group. If you guys enjoyed this stuff that I'm talking about, I highly recommend you check out that Facebook group. There's a lot of content in there.
What's that called real quick?
Raising Money Secrets, OPM for real estate investors. And we talk all about this kind of stuff in there. That's been an awesome source of traffic for me. And for me, I mean, it's not just, right? I don't look at my Facebook group as just a place to procure links and clicks and opt-ins. I look at it as a place to build a community, add value, show people what I'm about, and build a tribe. I mean, think about this stuff in the long term. Think about it in the big picture. You know, you might only have 1,000 friends on your Facebook right now, but think about what it can look like several years down the road as you scale into this stuff. But thought leadership platforms like a podcast, a YouTube channel, preferably something that gives you organic leverage. Okay. So quickly on that, like this will probably go on iTunes, right? iTunes will feed listeners to your podcast, right? If you have good reviews and you have good downloads, that's organic leverage. Same thing with a Facebook group. If my Facebook group is really, really engaged, Facebook will send more people who match specific interest to my Facebook group for free. That's organic leverage, right? So preferably a platform that has organic leverage and allows you to use it. And from there, after you start to have some success with that, then I would start to look at paid advertising. Facebook ads are still one of my favorites. I've been doing some YouTube pre-roll ads, some LinkedIn ads, cool stuff like that.
Are you struggling to understand how to underwrite multifamily properties? Hi, I'm John Stober, and I completely understand your problem. I thought underwriting would come naturally to me due to my background in finance and accounting, but I quickly found out that there aren't a lot of resources that cover this subject. I had no idea whether what I was doing was right, wrong, or just original. I don't want you to have to pick up little nuggets here and there like I did. So I wrote an ebook called How to Analyze Big Apartment Buildings and Make Them Feel Small that puts together all the pieces of the puzzle. We're also giving away a deal analyzer with the ebook, and they're both completely free. Don't wait as long as I did to start chasing financial freedom. Go to bit.ly/underwriting ebook and get your free copy today. So with the Facebook ads, how long should someone expect that to take until they start to have a positive ROI?
It depends on who's running the ads. I don't know. I mean, like, honestly, man, I've had people come to me like, Chad, I spent $3,000 on ads and I've got 2 opt-ins. What am I doing wrong? I'm like, dude, you didn't hire me to run your ads. That's what you did wrong. Right? Like, you got to learn and then scale. Like, it's not like a lot of people think Facebook ads are like this like little 3 magic button where if you press red, blue, and green, you make a bunch of money on your opt-ins, but that's just not the case. Yeah, again, it goes back to your ideal investor avatar, your ideal client avatar. You have to have the right offer, the right message, and you got to put it in front of them at the right time, right? So if one thing's off, if your targeting is off, if your placements are off, if your messaging's off, right? You're just not going to get the conversions you're looking for. And so what I do with every Facebook ad campaign I run for myself and my clients is we have 5 days of testing, where I test different images, different videos, different copy, and I figure out what's going to perform best. And then I can actually roll our several thousands of dollars of budgets into our ads with confidence, knowing that they'll be profitable. So there's a ton of education for free on Facebook ads on YouTube. There's a ton.
YouTube education.
Yep. And that's where I learned.
Everything.
Yep. And then I just learned how to be good at it, man. I became obsessed with like being good at running profitable ads. And, but just don't go, like, if you've never ran a Facebook ad and you want to start and you think you can just open up a Facebook business manager, throw $2,000 at it. I mean, I don't know. That's just me. Educate yourself. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is the new currency.
Well, you are the one doing it, so you would probably know best.
Yep.
Chad, I got a question for you. For someone who's maybe this is their first time doing their thought leadership platform, their first one, what advice would you give to them when first starting out? Consistency
is everything. Absolutely everything. I've seen it before. People, especially in Facebook groups, this happens a lot. Someone will start a Facebook group, they'll post in it, they'll be active for 2 weeks, and then they disappear. Right? It's not how you build a thought leadership platform. It's consistency, showing up, regardless of what platform it is, podcasting, YouTube, blogs, whatever. Consistency is everything. If you tell your audience you're posting twice a week, you better believe you need to be posting twice a week. Don't get lazy. Don't fade out. Number 2, it's okay to suck, right? It's okay to suck at it. Like, the first podcast episode I've ever recorded was horrible, but I still did it, and I still did another one and another one and another one, right? It's okay to suck. Everybody sucks at first. It's okay to stutter, to have ums and ahs, and have flaws. I recommend having flaws. It makes you real. It makes you own your flaws for what they are. And yeah, just show up as who you are, right? I think a lot of people want to start a thought leadership platform, and the number one thing that's holding them back is they don't feel 100% comfortable in their own shoes. And so they're reluctant to start in the first place, right? Get to that place where if you stutter, if you forget what you have to say, if your internet cuts out, right, it doesn't matter. You just keep rolling. Mm-hmm. Like, that's an amazing place to create content from, because it's real, right? And people will see that, people will respect that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, especially in syndications, I mean, people do business with people. They're typically going to be investing in you and because of you, and not always necessarily because of the deal, depending on the person. So,
So for someone who's new, I feel like a lot of people get scared about starting a thought leadership platform because they're like, oh, who am I? I'm not an expert in this. What type of advice would you offer to them?
Yeah, I recommend starting out with the attractive character of the reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you're going out, getting the information from other top experts, right? Bringing that information, bringing those golden nuggets back to your people. You're the reporter, you're the adventurer, right? You're going out. You're not claiming to be this expert, right? You're not claiming this fake it till you make it thing, right? You're showing up for where you're really at, but you're talking about where you want to go, right? You're rubbing shoulders with people who are there. And you're pulling these golden nuggets, these things of wisdom back, and reporting back to your audience with that type of attractive character persona.
So Chad, when you're crafting your message, what are some like good parts that make a great message when you're giving your content out?
Yeah, for sure. Have you guys heard of hook, story, offer?
Yep.
Yeah, we have.
For sure. Hook, story, offer is this Russell Brunson coined term. I've kind of adopted it to hook, value, offer. Stories are great and all, but make sure your story has some freaking value in it, right? Don't tell me a story about you going in and getting groceries and how you met this nice old lady and then you went home and cooked dinner. I don't care. I want some value, right? So hook, value, offer. The hook is the thing that gets people to stop scrolling, right? The hook is the attention grabber, the headline, the thing that gets somebody thinking, man, I really need to listen to the rest of this. Numbers typically work really well in hooks. And then the value, right? Telling something that actually provides real tangible value. And then the offer, call to action. If you enjoyed this content, join my Facebook group. If you enjoyed this content, come check out my podcast. If you enjoyed this, the list goes on, right? The value piece, I think I want to spend a little bit more time there, primarily because as of at least probably the last 6 months, I've started to notice this little era of fake value, right? The fake value being, oh, 10x everything, just like there's no real value there, right? And so I feel pretty passionate about always providing 10 times the value that you ever charge in price, whether that be free or not, whether that be for email or not. Right? Providing real tangible value is by far and large the simplest and easiest way to be setting yourself apart from the noise.
So one thing I know Russell Brunson says is like when you're giving away your value for like your lead magnet at the beginning of your funnel, he's like, give away your best thing. Like you want it to be juicy to get them in. Then, that starts to build like trust and rapport. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did a master class on LinkedIn.
Great class.
Only to my Facebook. That's all. Only to my Facebook group, and that offer converted at like 80%, $97. And I was talking to one of my mentors. He's like, "Why do you think your offer converted so well?" I was like, "I'm not 100% sure. I'm curious what you think." He goes, and he's in the Facebook group, so he sees everything I did. He told me, those people were so hot. They were salivating at the mouth, waiting for your offer because of how much value you've given them for free. I mean, in that Facebook group, there's got to be at least 20 hours of free live content where other people would probably have done something similar and charged for it. And so when you lead with that much value that just blows people away, they're like, man, of course, I want it. I want this thing, right? So leading with that, and I guess I'm reluctant to say this because it's just such a stupid Gary V cliche, honestly. But, at the end of the day, like with this kind of stuff, just give and give and give without any expectation of getting back, and you'll win. You just will. And that's what I did. And, and that's what I continue to do. And I've really enjoyed the results because it comes from a place, of wanting to help people, not necessarily, needing opt-ins or needing Stripe account transfers, right? It comes from a good place when somebody messages you and says, dude, what you shared with me completely changed my business. I just made an extra 50 grand. Like that shit is really cool.
Yeah, and I guess both of us can speak on like the customer end because we've each bought some of your products. And like one of the reasons I did buy one of your products is because you guys do give away so much free value that by the time you ask for money, I'm like, even if I get no value from this, I've already gotten way more than the cost of the price. And now if they're actually charging for it, it's probably going to be way more value than I've already received.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think there's a tipping point for it. I think if you're starting to create a thought leadership platform and you want to monetize right out the gates, you're probably doing it for the wrong reason. Right? I believe in giving that free value and giving it for quite some time. I don't know the exact number of days or weeks or months or whatever, but being able to prove to your audience that you're not just trying to monetize, you're doing this for a bigger goal, for a bigger reason. I think that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay. So I wanted to ask you a question. I think you're going to have a really good, interesting answer for. You've taught me and Fritz a lot of like really neat rules about Facebook and like what to do and what not to do in your posts.
Mm-hmm.
So what are like 5 things you see on Facebook that just make you cringe? And you're like, you're like, oh my God, like there are some just
hashtag 10x.
Yeah.
But there's just like stupidly easy things you can do to fix them.
Sure. Number one, first and foremost, that just like, it makes me want to punch you in the gut. Spamming Facebook groups. Everybody freaking does it. They spam Facebook groups. And one guy in particular, man, he will post his webinar in like 30 different real estate groups.
Mm-hmm.
Just share the post. And I'm like, dude, like, how's that working for you? He's like, oh, I got like 20 people opting in. Like, oh, like how many people are showing up? Oh, like 3. Like, yeah, dude, you're spamming Facebook group. Don't do that. I mean, people, again, like it's so quality oriented over quantity oriented. And so that strategy, I recommend picking a couple groups, 1, 2, maybe 3, and spending real and genuine time in those Facebook groups, replying to people's comments, adding real value to the group, and making yourself a moderator without actually becoming a moderator. And that's what I do, right? A lot of people know me because I ride a lot of motorcycles, right? And a lot of my investors I've met riding motorcycles. So what I do is I infiltrate motorcycle groups, right? And one here in particular in Colorado, I think there's like 800 people in it. It's all very, very serious riders. And I joined it, I don't know, 6, maybe 7 months ago. And I started showing up to all the group rides. I met the owner of the group. I started, asking him to go ride with me, buying him lunch. I would go back to the Facebook group. I would offer help anytime someone needed a trailer or whatever. I would constantly add real, genuine value to the group. And now I am a admin of it, right? I host rides, I schedule rides and trainings and all these things, right? So very, very quickly, I went from just a member to an authority in the group, and that helped me out a lot, right? The second thing I would say that really is cringeworthy on Facebook is when people post content all about me, right? The worst one I ever saw was something like this. It's like, hey, what's up, guys? My name's Chad. Been doing real estate for a while. Yeah, I've been fixing, flipping, and now I buy apartments, and it's really cool. And so I know a lot about real estate. So if you want to get into real estate, like I know a lot about real estate. So let me know, right? Like that is such a terrible piece of content for so many reasons, but primarily he made it all about himself, right? Make it about the people you serve, right? Come from a place of whether you're killing it or not in real estate, create that piece of content from a place of humbleness and share it for the people you want to serve, not to make yourself look so cool.
Mm-hmm.
That one happens a lot. Number 3, this one doesn't really make me cringe. It's just I just think people don't really understand it. But when you share links, on Facebook. Like let's say you're sharing a link to an article or you're sharing a link to a website. Most people just don't understand that Facebook wants to keep its users on its platform so that it can serve its ads, right? If you're not on Facebook, you can't see a Facebook ad, right? So if you're trying to send people off of Facebook, and again, this is I'm specifically talking for a personal organic post, not talking about I'm not talking about Facebook ads, right? Just a post. And you share a link, you're doing yourself negative goodwill in the Facebook algorithm, and they're going to significantly decrease your reach with that piece of content because they want to keep people on the platform. Number 4, I think, again, this isn't really cringeworthy, but it's just people not spending the time to think about how they can ascend their Facebook friends to something of value, right? They don't ever make an offer. They're scared to make an offer. It's like their biggest fear is making an offer. They don't want to do it, right? And so that one's kind of sucks because now your Facebook friends are just Facebook friends, right? Like you never get them into your world, right? You never get them off the platform, or you never take them somewhere else where you can show them how awesome you are. And then the last one, which is cringeworthy and it's off topic, but just crappy posts about who wants to make $1,000 by next weekend, which is just stupid MLM posts. We've all seen them. They're horrible. I don't know if that's applicable here, but that one's pretty big. And the other thing too that I see people not doing enough with their content is telling a story with details, right? Talking about how, like, let's say I'll use myself for an example. I told this story about how I was in Mexico and I met this guy and we rode motorcycles together and how he became an investor of mine and blah, blah, blah. But what really made that piece of content do really, really well is I talked about where I was. I talked about, I was on the beach at a coffee shop, and I talked about, I said this in the copy. I just remember feeling like I was meeting this random stranger who became my best friend. Like being very detailed in your writing allows people to put themselves at the place with you. It allows them to put themselves in the scene with you, feel how you feel, and relate to you much, much quicker. So
Chad, how important is it to have a copy with your content? Like, let's say you're doing a Facebook Live. Do you recommend people actually write out the story as well?
It depends on the person. I think some people do need to have that line by line by line prepared. Me personally, I just have a couple pieces, right? I just have, a couple things. All right, so this is what my hook's going to be. I'm going to tell this story. Here's going to be my point to the story, and here's my offer, right? So I just do a very, very rough outline for a video piece. Now, if I'm writing, I'll probably rewrite it 5 or 6 times before it's ready to go. If I'm writing like actual text, I'll write it multiple times, sleep on it, write it again in the morning, and then post it type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And my grammar is not the greatest in my writing. I have a lot of typos and things of that nature. And so I realized that was a weakness of mine. So I actually brought on somebody to check my writing.
I struggle from that too.
Yeah. So
are you like pre-planning your content a week in advance so that way you can craft the copy and then get it edited?
Yeah, I do. In my Facebook group, every Sunday I go and schedule 6 posts in my Facebook group just to make sure that there is content going out. If something comes up top of mind, I'll still post it even if it hasn't been scheduled. For my personal Facebook stuff, I don't typically schedule stuff. Not as much. So.
And is it a myth that if you use those scheduling tools, it hurts your reach?
In a Facebook group specifically, or
like on a Facebook group and on your personal wall?
So in a Facebook group, I use the native schedule planner inside of Facebook.
Okay.
And I haven't seen any repercussions because of it. Now on your personal Facebook, as far as I know, you're not able to schedule things anymore. You used to be able to use third-party apps like Buffer or Scheduler or whatever. But as far as I know, you can't use those anymore. And you can only schedule posts on your Facebook group and your Facebook page, your business page. So I don't schedule stuff on my personal page. What I'll do instead is I'll write it out in a doc or in a notepad or whatever, so that it's there and it's prepared for me to easily post the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
So
Chad, I wanted to ask something about sharing links. What do you suggest somebody do if they want to share a good article instead of recrafting it?
yeah, I recommend taking a screenshot, like a snip, a screen snip, posting it as a photo, and then putting the link in the comments. Yeah,
Okay.
That's what I would typically do. Or read it, and give a little spark notes. Give little spark notes on your top takeaways, which is a cool thing to do, because now it positions you with a little bit more credibility. That you actually took the time to read it, and pulled the top 5 golden nuggets out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just sharing a link. So those would kind of be my 2 strategies for that.
Awesome. Okay, so we are running up on time. I wanted to get to our final section of the show that we call the Fast 5. They're the same 5 questions we ask everyone who comes on. So
Awesome.
If you're ready, we'll get right to it.
Let's rock it.
So normally we ask, if you had to start all over again, you were in your early 20s, how would you do that? But you're still in your 20s. So
Yeah.
I guess, what would you do differently, if anything?
Yeah, well, man, I mean, what a lot of people don't know about my story is that actually did happen at 21.
Mm-hmm.
I lost everything I had. I had a successful company. I was making 6 figures, doing really well, and had a really, really ugly fallout with a business partner who wound up taking the business and blah, blah, blah. And what I did was I just hustled, man. Seriously, I just grind. And I started working on this other business. And at night, I would go park cars, valet downtown Denver, to pay my bills. I'm working 14-hour days, 15-hour days, right? A lot of people, they'll cop out, right? If you fall out, they're like, screw this real estate stuff isn't for me. I'm going to go get a real job, or I'm going to go do this, right? But you have to be willing to set your ego and your pride aside for the greater being of your future, right? A lot of people just are not willing to do that. Like, a lot of people, like, I sit here today proud to tell you that I grinded out to park valet cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people won't have that. A lot of people can't see past their ego and their pride. So stay humble, stay committed to your bigger picture.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that, man. How do you see young professionals adding the most value to experienced operators in this space?
Yeah, great question. Come to the game prepared, right? I'm just use yourself as an example, right? Somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, John, I want to get into real estate, and I see you're doing that. How can I join you?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? That conversation looks a lot different than somebody coming to you and say, "Hey, John, I see you're getting started in real estate. I know a lot about marketing. I know how to build funnels. I know how to do this stuff, and I'd love to add value to your team that way." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Come prepared. Do your homework and showcase the real value that you can provide. Like, have something that you can leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have it, you better go learn it.
Yeah, I think it's just, you have to have a skill.
You have to have a skill, man. No, there's no free handouts no more.
Right. If you go to someone and you ask the first question, now you've just kind of put the burden on them. It's like, I got to think of stuff for you to do. Like, you have to come, like, day one, I can add value this way.
And here's exactly how. Here's what you can expect. Being very clear, and just own it, man. You just got to own it.
Mm-hmm. Love it. What's the biggest mistake you've made in your career, and how have you since adjusted your business because of that?
Yeah. I don't know if it's the biggest mistake I've ever made. But pretty early on, when I started building my own brand and putting myself out there, I did a lot of the things wrong that I just told you about. I would come and create content. Look at me. I'm amazing. I'm doing real estate deals. I'm doing this cool stuff. Me. And the persona and the brand I gave off was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible. I looked like a pompous little jerk. And so that was a big mistake. I don't know if it was the biggest, but since then, I've really started to, figure out what my mission was, what the skills I have to leverage and help people come with me, help people find success with me, right? I didn't make it about me, right? I made it about the people I help, right? And all the time, like if you get my emails or see my posts all the time, man, I'll say, don't just take my word for it. Here's what so-and-so did. Look at what this amazing person accomplished because of what I taught them, right? So coming from a place of humbleness and adding value solved that problem for me.
So we talked about this a lot today, but what's been your favorite way to incorporate technology and social media into your business?
Yeah, for sure. Algorithms, understanding social media algorithms is huge, guys. So huge. Again, organic leverage. It's there. You have to understand how to use it. If you don't, your competition will just crush you. It's just the facts, right? Organic leverage is so powerful. And then the funnels and the marketing systems and all that stuff, the way I like to explain that and implement it is think of your marketing funnel and your follow-up sequence as a little kiddie pool, right? Remember those when you were a kid playing in the backyard, you had these little kiddie pools, okay? In order for that pool to fill up with water, you have to have hoses. You have to have hoses that are going into that pool. Those are your thought leadership platform. Those are your traffic. Those are you speaking at events, right? Those are all those amazing things that get people to know who you are. But if you have hoses just sitting on the ground with no pool, the water has nowhere to go, has nowhere to collect, right? So think of your traffic as your hoses, your water hoses, and think of your kiddie pool as your marketing funnel and your ascension plan to get that water to fill up the pool.
Awesome analogy. Last question. What book has most influenced you on your journey?
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Great book.
Big time. Yep.
Boom.
Big time. I started a lot of my journey as a bartender in a high-end country club. And it was weird because I was the youngest guy. These are all super, super high rollers. And I didn't really understand how to read social cues. I didn't understand how to read personality traits and how to talk to them and do all these things because the way you and I might build a relationship can be completely different than the way Fritz and I build a relationship, right? So being able to pick up on those things, those human interactions can be so powerful, and just being able to study that. So that book paired with Chris Voss's
Never Split the Difference.
Yeah. Those two books because that gets you started in NLP and starts to help you understand NLP.
NLP,
neuro linguistic programming. Yeah, good stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah, that's a book I read every year. Actually, Never Split the Difference. It's great.
Yeah, and I mean, this might sound silly, but if somebody's watching this right now and they're like, I have no idea what I want to do, how to get started, how to become successful in business, this, that, and the other thing, I always say, go get started in sales somewhere. Business is all, I mean, if you're in a high level position in business, it's about relationships, right? How to talk to people, what types of things to say, what not to say. Like sales is a great foundation to be building from. And that's what I got started into. It helped me out a lot. So.
Can't have a business if you don't make money.
Yep. That's facts.
Makes a hobby.
Exactly.
Well, all right. Chad, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Millennials and Multifamily Podcast. Before we tune out, what would be the best way for our listeners to learn more about you or to get in touch?
Yeah, for sure. Go join the Facebook group. That's where I spend the most time, most active in there. That's where you get most of my content. It's Raising Money Secrets, OPM for real estate investors. Whether you're actively trying to raise money or not, it's a valuable place to understand marketing and branding.
Yes, I can attest. You'll learn a lot of stuff about social media marketing in that group.
Yep.
So.
Grab the LinkedIn class.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Well, all right, guys. That's all for today. And until next time.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to the Millennials in Multifamily Podcast, brought to you by Kronos Investment Partners. If you enjoyed the show, Please leave us a rating and a written review at iTunes so that we can connect with more people. Finally, head on over to chronosinvestmentpartners.com and sign up for our newsletter so you can stay updated on everything we're doing. If you're interested in partnering with us as we find new opportunities, you can also schedule a phone call with us under the Contact Us tab at chronosinvestmentpartners.com.